Hello fellow Americans, this is H.J. Armstrong, citizen, scholar, saint. I am a watchman for this great nation and I am using my access to America's secret archives to the greatest possible effect. Currently, I am doing a long-term research project called the Bull Queer Theory of History. In the meantime, I am using my understanding of Bull Queer theory and my knowledge of the world to illuminate issues that are otherwise shrouded in mystery. Today, I would like to discuss the recent raft of allegations against WWE Chairman, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. These allegations reveal that McMahon is on the bull queer spectrum, although we can only speculate as to his exact standing on that spectrum. I plan to explain this fully. Perhaps of greater importance for the world is the fact that Vince McMahon is not the actual target of these wild allegations. McMahon was a great businessman and promoter, but his day has passed and there is no real reason for going after a semi-retired senior citizen. McMahon, however, is close friends with someone who remains greatly relevant in American life, President Donald Trump, the presumptive Republican nominee and the man with about an 80% chance of being elected to a second term in November. I will also demonstrate that Trump is the real target of this assault on McMahon. Janelle Grant is McMahon's accuser. She was a young woman who met McMahon, who was a neighbor of hers. Grant had recently lost both of her parents and McMahon consoled her, promising her a job and his support. Or, at least that is her version of events. In reality, Janelle Grant was accustomed to a certain standard of living and she lacked the wherewithal to earn that kind of cheddar on her own merits. She was also in an awkward stage of life for a woman who wants to make her way in the world. Pushing 30, she was too old to try to be an athlete, model, actress, or influencer. However, she also did not want to limit her options by getting married and pushing out kids, even though the ticking of her biological clock should have alerted her to the need to hop on the stick, as it were. Her solution was to use the 70-something Vince McMahon as a sugar daddy. The relationship went well enough to last for some time, even if the self-proclaimed genetic jackhammer proved to be kinkier and more demanding than she had anticipated. Vince is into some strange things, from defecating on her to asking her to use dildos that he has named after some of his favorite wrestlers. She alleges that Vince also asked her to make content and perform in person for various wrestling officials. Janelle would have us believe that this was all involuntary, but she continued to show up to work and go into rooms with Vince, Johnny Ace, and other people who supposedly forced themselves on her. The simple truth is more likely that she is a submissive, likes older men, and wanted to take some famous sausage. However, things got out of control as Vince overstepped the boundaries that they may have agreed to. By and large, I think that her story is plausible in most respects except for the implication that she is some kind of paragon of virtue whose innocence was corrupted by Vince McMahon. If we understand that this virago played a major role in the sexual perversions that she described, then the story becomes vastly more probable very quickly. The reason why McMahon's actions here drew my interest is that everything that he is alleged to have done is in line with him being a bull queer. Bull queers emphasize the humiliation aspect of sexuality as a general rule. Vince allegedly defecated in Janelle's hair and then told her to keep performing for one of his friends without cleaning up while he went to take a shower. This is a way for Vince to humiliate and humble both the lady and his unnamed male friend. They will be doing sexual acts covered in his feces on his orders and he knows that they will continue to obey even after he is out of sight. It is a power play. Bull queers also operate on leverage, preferring to use knowledge of other people's sexual secrets to keep them in line. McMahon has plenty of dirt on the senior figures at Titan Tower who cannot betray him without facing fire and fury. While this blackmail typically involves homosexual acts, unusual and stigmatized acts such as office threesomes and defecation can also serve as solid leverage. Not since John Adams' White House has a bull queer more effectively held his staff in check. There is a reason why WWE has grown and prospered to become the world leader in the wrestling industry. This of course leads to the question of where Vince McMahon fits into the bull queer spectrum. As the leader of a major company and someone with all of the markers of an alpha male, we have to consider the possibility that he is the bull queer heading his own queer cartel. In fact, if I were asked by someone to explain bull queer theory, then I would direct them to footage of Vince McMahon's on-air character, particularly from the late 1990s to perhaps 2010 or so. This is a kind of exaggerated performance of how a bull queer could reasonably be expected to behave. On the air, McMahon put wrestlers in peril to gratify his own ego and ordered divas such as Sable and Trish Stratus to attend him and show off his high status. He made corrupt deals with various wrestlers in exchange for title shots, but it was clear that he was always the main beneficiary and schemer. All of this is a kind of performative bull queering. And therein lies the problem with seeing McMahon as a preeminent bull queer. While he captures the spirit of the position perfectly, he outs himself too much, showing both the perversity and thirst for power required of any bull queer. This leads me to think that he is in fact a subordinate bull queer, heading up a wing of a larger cartel. Given McMahon's personal prominence, this must be a major wing indeed. However, his over-the-top styling is a little too much for someone pulling strings behind the scenes the way that a preeminent bull queer dominating state or national politics must. Whose queer cartel does McMahon work for, then? The natural assumption of his political opponents is that he must be an operative for his good friend Donald Trump, who is currently the most prominent bull queer in the country. Thus, the assault on McMahon is meant to crash one of the branches of Trump's queer cartel. Both Vince and his wife Linda have provided considerable support, advice, and advertising to the real estate mogul and his political career. However, it is very clear that Trump has always been the senior partner among the two, as he is a more dignified presence and he has invested in more stable and sensible things than professional wrestling, which is notoriously cyclical. Thus, Trump's leftist enemies who wish to weaken him ahead of the 2024 election are actually wise to strike at McMahon, who may very well be the connecting thread to a substantial portion of the most influential men within Trump's queer cartel. This is not the first time that one of Trump's allies has been attacked by the full force of the establishment and media. Jeffrey Epstein suffered a similar fate, although Trump was clever enough to not leave any kind of paper trail. The story of Epstein, of course, is a different story for a different day. It is worth noting for now that his suicide was a sacrifice for the greater good of the queer cartel and a good example of the kind of inspirational leadership that Donald Trump is capable of bringing to the table. The same thing will apply here, as Trump will not go down with Vince McMahon. It is at this point in the video that I must remind my listeners that preeminent bull queers and the queer cartels that they operate are absolutely critical to maintaining a functioning society. Thus, while it may seem that a scandal is being exposed, that is only a surface-level understanding of events. In point of fact, the only way for a society to function is when there is a firm chain of authority. The alternative to queer cartels is to have a police state. In the olden days, kings and their nobles were the bull queers of society, and they were able to allow their subjects to operate without the burden of a police state. However, in a free society a more informal arrangement is needed, and that can only come from having powerful bull queers with queer cartels. To circle back, this means that Vince McMahon and Donald Trump are actually the good guys. Are the left, therefore, bad guys for opposing this and trying to break up the cartel? The short answer is yes, with the caveat that not all of them understand the stakes. However, the chief leaders of the far left are well aware of the role of queer cartels, since they have tried and failed to create their own. Bill Clinton and Barack Obama were weak presidents in many ways because their queer cartels could not even command the loyalty of their own party. Joe Biden is feeble due to both age and the lack of any semblance of a queer cartel. Donald Trump's cartel was not dominant in 2016, but he has been expanding it in the years since his election. What this country needs more than anything is a strong bull queer to provide guidance. All of our nation's greatest successes have occurred because of the leadership of bull queers, whereas our greatest disasters have come due to a lack of strong bull queers. While there is no guarantee that Trump's queer cartel can establish order and make America great again, he is the only candidate who understands these issues. He has the largest queer cartel of anyone in the country, and he is far and away our best hope to restore liberty and keep a police state at bay. Thank you for your time, and please do anything in your power to protect Mr. McMahon from this political onslaught. There are far greater stakes at play than Ms. Grant's feelings. The truth is that her getting defecated upon prevents the nation as a whole from being defecated upon by the world. God bless.